Third City Coalition. In our show, we examine case studies in urban development in Stockton and other cities like Stockton across the country, exploring their local and regional impacts. Individual efforts play a role in Third City development, and it starts with you. We hope you'll join us for new episodes starting in early 2017.
Hi everyone, this is Dr. Julie Damron, local veterinarian for over 20 years. I am so excited about my new radio show, Tales and Tips, on Tuesday morning at 10 a.m. on Facebook, YouTube, Voice of Stockton, and KXVS Radio. I will discuss relevant issues affecting animals and pet owners today, how to avoid common problems, and how to extend the quality of life for your cherished companions. As a community advocate, I will also discuss important social issues that affect our city. I plan to showcase organizations and heroes who are doing amazing things to help others. Remember to tune in every Tuesday morning at 10, starting soon.
KXVS, the Voice of Stockton, live. The Voice of Stockton at Stone Soup Studio. KXVS.org.
Good morning, Stocktonians, and welcome to another exciting episode of Tales and Tips. I'm honored to have Tom Patti, one of our county supervisors, here today, and we're going to talk about issues that affect Stockton and beyond. Welcome, Tom. Thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you, Dr. Julie.
All right. So my first question,
wait. Well, before we get into a question, let me just say I'm thrilled to be here. You and I, I'm sure you've mentioned on air before that you're a Rotarian.
Yes.
And I'm so proud to have worked with you on a multitude, trying to keep up with you and all that you do in the community. And you don't even run for office. So there's you've got the purest of all interests, as you are so dedicated to your community. And I'm just thrilled to sit here with you today in the studio and chat with you about things that are going on. But more than anything, I want to recognize and tell you how I truly appreciate all that you do here in around our town and for so many. So thank you.
Thank you. That really means a lot coming from you, because you joke about catching up with me, but you're all over the place. You go to events all the time, and you are hands-on working in the community. In fact, you and I just recently worked on Heroes Park over the weekend.
Yes, Heroes Park. What a great just renovation for something that wasn't there before. It has been created by vision and passion and commitment from so many in the community, and your participation, as well as so many people, to turn this around and make this a really instrumental element to making and improving people's lives.
I truly think I agree with you. I think it's going to improve people's lives. For the people who don't know, do you want to talk about where it is and why it's so meaningful to the community?
Yes, one of our fellow Rotarians, Peter Jalili, I guess he'd be Pastor Peter, which is different than us just knowing him during lunchtimes and when we get together. But he's the pastor at that church, First Calvary, and he had a vision, for a long time, to turn this empty field, land that they own, into a park, a community park. Now, what really stands out is this is a high crime risk area. There's good, wonderful people. It's a great community, but unfortunately there's a lot of youth that are misguided and without any real, oftentimes, leadership or direction. So here's a place there's an outlet, there's mentoring, he's turning into so much more, but it's something that community is going to be able to be proud of, that community is going to be able to utilize, and it will truly have a profound impact in the direction of where that community is going. And what really speaks for me is I'm the only supervisor district throughout this San Joaquin County that is without a community center. So
I didn't know that.
I am. So that just was really not going to be acceptable, because I've got some needy areas, and I would identify Kelly Drive and all of that region as a place that needs some attention,
definitely high need
and
area.
some resources and some action. So I'm thrilled to piggyback off of what's already going on there, and any way I can accentuate and highlight greater opportunity is a win-win for everybody. And I'm really thrilled that I've engaged the county, and we're looking at bringing multiple resources down there to increase and accentuate what Pastor Peter is already doing.
Awesome. And I know they do envision. So right now, the basketball court just opened this weekend. You were there for the ribbon cutting. And there's the playground. I know they plan to have an amphitheater where they can have movies and other events, shows and things. And I believe our Rotary Club is going to help with that. And it's exciting. To me, it's a great safe place for the kids and to help them so that they have other activities besides getting involved in drugs and crime.
True. And really what you realize is when you see a program that's being at its infancy, it really didn't take a lot to pull this off. I mean, they went over and talked to Chase Chevrolet. They stepped up right away and made a donation.
Thank you, Roy Morales.
Yeah, Roy Morales and the whole team. I mean, John Chase was well aware of it, and John Ferriello, and just Chase Chevrolet stepped up, as they always do. I don't know if you know this, but they spend $1 million a year back into the community. They have truly $1 million. They dedicate $1 million back to the community to help people and multiple causes.
And it's not just money. They're at events, and Roy volunteers lots of time.
Wonderful what they do. And they don't have to. There's no obligation. No. They don't need to do that, but they step up and they contribute to their community. I really appreciate the guys at Chase. Guys and gals, the whole team. So, and then you've got other people. Gunter Steel stepped up, and they delivered $8,000 of rebar so they could build that. And then you have somebody else step up in the community, and they donated the concrete.
Well, and you donated.
Yeah, well, yes, I donated and contributed in different ways, but and then you saw the community step up and build the fences, or just there's so many things, so many contributions, really much to be proud of.
And lots of people from our Rotary Club this weekend were painting fences and shoveling gravel, and I know in the past people were digging holes to put the playground together.
That's correct. Yeah, it's all good.
Awesome.
So all fun.
So talk about, you mentioned that there's not a community center in your district. Can you talk about what area you cover?
Well, I've got 3 major cities. I've got Stockton, Lathrop, and the north half of Manteca. So I'm active in all 3 of those communities and more. I mean, really, the county, us supervisors, there's 5 of us. We serve the entire county. And I know that there's the supervisors in the other districts. They step up, they work, and they're involved in the community throughout. And all the decisions we make are active throughout the entire San Joaquin County. So we're very engaged. I'm really pleased to be on this board and to see the active engagement from all of the supervisors.
Awesome. And can you explain to the public, how is the County Board of Supervisors different than City Council in Stockton or in another city?
It kind of works like this. And we, supervisors, there's 57 counties throughout the state of California. And we oversee the state and federal programs. So a lot of funding that comes to us passes through us. Whereas the governor is the chief administrator for the state. Step down from the governor, it's going to be the boards of supervisors. They're going to oversee the programs, whether it be public health. It's going to be the county hospital. It's going to be the district attorney's office. All of these divisions need a board and supervisors to oversee where's the money, how's the allocation, how's the stewardship of that money, and how are those programs. You need a new director. Well, it's going to go through the board of directors. We're going to approve whoever's going to be administering the programs, mental health services, again, public health, you name it. Throughout the entire county, something needs to be rezoned and something needs to take into consideration changes throughout the community or development or consideration of, then it's going to go to the boards of supervisors. So you'd say we're kind of the city council for the entire county.
Okay. All right. Excellent. And let's step back a minute. I was going to start to ask you how you became interested in politics. I know that you were a boxer in the past. Earlier, you shared with me that you had an acting career. I didn't know about that. But how did this interest in politics begin?
Well, I'll tell you, for decades. I mean, I started working with my father when I was a young boy, 8 years old, and through him, I learned what it took to build a business and to help a business grow. And I was active with him and participated and did my part, whether it was sweeping floors or making sales calls when I was a young boy and calling people up and telling them we noticed that their sign was out and we'd like to service it for them, and building relationships. So I had a lot of experience. And what I've noticed for really such a long time is business owners are very involved in their business, and they work hard and they pay their bills. And believe me, you work very hard to make sure all your bills are paid, and sometimes you may not even get a paycheck yourself while you're taking care of your other responsibilities or your employees, which has happened to me on multiple occasions. But more importantly, while we're so active running our businesses, we're oftentimes not involved politically. However, we'll complain about the things that happen to us through the political process and through mandates and restrictions and regulations. So really, truly, until we get involved, until you are sitting on your city council or your planning commission or getting involved actively in whatever capacity, other than, in addition to just voting. Voting is a wonderful privilege that we have in this country, but what else are you doing? So I'm always in that mode of, yes, I'm doing this, but what else can I do? And I see the needs, I saw the trend in our community, and I feel we can do better. And we need active engagement, and there's experiences you bring. You can't buy experience. I've lived in New York City, I've lived in Los Angeles, I've traveled the world, I've seen many things that work or things that don't work. And I'm very passionate about making a change. I'm dedicated to my community. This is where I grew up. This is where I decided to raise my family. This is where my family's retired. And so I'm very dedicated to having an impact and ultimately changing the trajectory of where we're going. It's not what we're doing now that matters, like how's my life today, which is all very important. And I care about what happens in 6 months and 2 years and 5 years. But ultimately, how can we make changes that 20 years from now we yield the benefit of? It's like, one way to put it is you plant a tree now so that 15 years later, 20 years later, you've got a beautiful shade tree in your yard that you can enjoy. So that's my philosophy, my ideas. It's what we can do to change the trajectory of lives. Maybe identifying at-risk youth or even young adults, and impacting their life and giving them job training skills, giving them some of the elements that they need to be successful in life, to be self-sufficient and independent, so that we break the generational cycle that some people are oftentimes caught in.
And I think the tree analogy is perfect, because change takes time, and things that you do may take 5 or 10 years to really flourish or come to fruition. It takes time to build things. And you and I were talking earlier about the amazing article in the front of today's Stockton Record about someone that was homeless in Stockton who's now graduating from law school in San Francisco, and how amazing it is to see that positive transition happen.
Yeah, and it's truly, it's an inspirational story when you see a person that comes from adversity and a challenge, and by no fault of her own, yet in spite of those challenges, they show such integrity and such character strength to transition and to say, like, I'm going to do different. I want better for myself, and make that commitment. It's not easy, and a lot of people can sit around and complain, or they can find an outlet through drugs.
It's easy to complain.
Oh, it's very easy, but this is a person that I really truly respect and admire, and I'm certain that not only is she proud, but she has so many people around her that are proud and recognize her accomplishments and again her integrity and her strength of character.
And it takes, we can't just give things to people. They have to have an input. We were discussing this weekend at the park, that it's fine to give out things to people, but they have to have a personal responsibility for what goes on in their life. And are they able to do the work it takes to move up with some support and help, because it does take a village to get out of their situation. I'm really excited about the meeting tonight. That's the city-county meeting on homelessness. Do you have anything that you'd like to share about that meeting tonight?
Well, and I agree with you. I'm looking forward to, we put together, and I say we very loosely, of course, but the county, prior to even my election, put together a task force to study and analyze. And you really look at, we're doing the same thing in a Children's Alliance. It's, you look at the gaps and needs, you look at your best practices, and then it's going to come down to funding. So I'm active in a couple of areas right now that I think would accentuate the opportunity for success, that would help change and transition people's lives that might be in the homeless situation. I'm very passionate about job training programs, and I've identified one that I'm so impressed and amazed by, and I'll gladly talk about it. But it's called Cypress Mandela in Oakland. They've got 24 years of success taking people that are displaced, people that are in gangs, people that are on drugs, and in a 16-week program, they're trained, and they've got 7 different certifications, and they're highly employable, and they're running at about between a 90 to 100% success rate
in 4 months time.
In 4 months' time.
Wow.
It is deeply impacting, and
What are they being trained in?
Multitudes from electrical trades. They've got the ability to go onto a construction site. They can do concrete forming. They can do framing. They can do plumbing. They can do electric. They do it all there. They are taught. When I was there on one of my tours, I recently brought people from the district attorney's office. Our own Sheriff Moore went there. We brought probation, and they were all duly impressed. 15 people from our community and our services go, and we all came back and we roundtabled it, and we're like, yes, we need to adopt this. And we're going to go forward with meetings and talk with this fellow named Art Shank, who created this program, and we want to coalesce and work with him and bring that type of program here.
Awesome.
And it's what we need. It's what we want to do with our AB 109 funding. We want to get people out of jails. We want to stop recidivism. We need to give them trade skills.
They need to be ready to work.
And there's a gap right now in the employment phase. You might find some kids that you might be able to get into a training program, and you might find some mid-age people. But there's a big gap from 20 to 35. 30 even, probably about a 15 to 20 year gap where people are not in the trades. And that's systemic. We got out of 25 years ago. They decided no more trades. They took out all the shop classes, and they said everybody's going to get a college education. And that has failed in many elements of our community. So I'm really pleased to see they recognize that, and our educators now recognize it. And we are identifying trade school opportunities, and there are plenty of jobs out there for trades.
Definitely. And I know Sheriff Moore also talked about using the Honor Farm as a potential housing for the homeless, and having culinary training potentially as well. And to me, in as many ways as we can train people so that they can become independent, the more beneficial. We are still fortunate that in our community we have Delta, and Caterpillar Holt put in a whole training program, and that still does exist. But you're right, definitely the colleges are moving away from trades and more into computer science and other things, which is great, but we need things that the people in our community can be trained in and have jobs here.
It's ironically enough, and yes, you are correct, the education systems moved that way for a while. And we'll understand there's jobs. It's if there's money in Zinfandel grapes, all of a sudden everybody grows Zinfandel grapes, okay? So we understand that. It's market driven and people want to catch a good thing. I was talking with one of the top engineers at Google, happens to be a neighbor of that I know of a friend down in Santa Cruz. And I was talking with him, Mike Frumkin is his name. And he was one of the initial top 100, first 100 people employed by Google. So he's been there for quite a while, and he's just a brilliant, minded guy. And he was telling me that they are creating software now that will put their programmers, their software programmers are creating software that will put themselves out of a job. So that all of these people are going to school and learn computer programming and sciences. Some I'm not saying all, but many of these, many of these jobs are going to disappear because you'll be able to. The algorithms will be created automatically.
And I was hearing that same thing. I know you spoke with Gavin Newsom recently, and I went to one of his events, and he was talking about just that a lot of jobs 5 years from now are going to be automated. And so we need other training to have a viable workforce that's not going to be outsourced by something that's mechanized.
Very true, and a big concern. I mean, the economy is forever evolving, and you want to be ahead of the curve, not behind.
Definitely. So how did you prepare for County Board of Supervisors? What leadership roles have you done or additional study to be able to do this?
Well, gosh, I've been for multitudes of years now. I've been on a variety of boards, from Child Abuse Prevention Council, Stockton Builders Exchange. I've been on Stockton Crime Stoppers, Delta College Foundation, and March of Dimes, and I think 2 or 3 others that are still in my wheelhouse. So you get involved in the community, you listen, and you find a cause and an action that you can take, and that's really truly what. Believe it or not, people kept approaching me to run for office, and I'm like, why would you even think that? I mean, I'm busy. I'm a dad. I'm a single dad taking care of my adorable little girl, and that wasn't even in my thought of what I thought I'd be doing in my future. However, multitudes of people kept talking to me about, you got to get involved and you got to run for office. So I started to look into it, and I appreciate my friend Supervisor Carlos Villapudua kind of took me under his wing and said, look, this is what we do, and this is what I think you would be fantastic at. And I started to just study at it, look at it, and evaluate what I believe would be a good course of action for me with my experience and my passion and dedication. You know, we only have a certain amount of time to get things done, so there's term limits, and I'm committed to working for the next 8 years in every capacity I can as a supervisor to have a profound impact, not only on what we're doing, but what we're doing for our future.
Awesome. And besides jobs, what other areas are you concerned about? What are priorities to you?
Well, public safety, of course, and we want to break that cycle, as I mentioned earlier, and get some of these at-risk youth and even at-risk young adults that aren't benefiting at the opportunities that are abound and around us. So I want to focus on public safety, this education level, and jobs. I mean, I really believe all of it. If you want safer streets, if you want more jobs, it's going to be through education, and that's why I really love this Cypress Mandela program. And it could be, you can look it up online if any of your listeners want to check it out. It's a highly impacting program that is transformational for regions. I mean, they've taken, in one instance, he was saying that he had 7 out of the 8 most notorious gang members in, I think it was Union City or Richmond, and 7 of them joined the Cypress program, and crime dropped like 60 or 70% once they got these guys through a program, and they gave them a career, and they gave them options and opportunity, and it completely transformed that little community.
Wow!
So it will have a profound impact once we engage and implement something like this.
That would be amazing, because I know in our community we have 3rd and 4th generation gang members, and it's really hard to break that cycle. That's not going to happen on its own, and people need assistance to come out of that. Can you spell or list the website or spell the Cypress Mandela for our listeners so that they can look it up?
I know if you Google it, Cypress, Cypress, and then Mandela, as in Nelson Mandela, you'd be able to find it. It's
Awesome.
It's pretty easy. It's well known. It's documented. There's all sorts of videos on it, and they've documented. When I was talking to Gavin Newsom about it, he was very aware of Art Shank and his program, and we talked about, this is where your AB 109 money needs to be appropriated. It's programs like this, and our own probation department was very keen on this program once they saw it, and so was our sheriff.
Awesome. I think that's really important, because it sounds like it's already had a huge impact in another community, and that means that if we take that same idea, we're not reinventing the wheel, we're just applying it and tweaking it to our needs and maximizing the potential that it could have in our community. So
Absolutely.
That's amazing. All right. So I know earlier we talked about the fact briefly that you were a boxer. Can you talk about what that experience was like for you and what you came away from that with? Well,
like anybody that's dedicated to whether it be gymnastics or golf or swimming or any multitude of activities, they're character builders. And I had the great fortune of moving from here in Stockton, where I began boxing. I knew my interest level exceeded what the local opportunities would offer. So I moved to, had this unique possibility of living and training with a legendary trainer named Casti Amato. So I moved from Stockton to upstate New York, and myself and I was 17, and there was a young boy named Mike Tyson. He was 14 years old, and we lived in the same house together. And a lot of fighters came and went, but when you flash forward like 4 or 5 years later, Mike and I were Cuss's last 2 fighters.
Wow.
So
how amazing is that?
it was a great experience of obviously a front row seat for history of Mike's good and bad and the roller coaster in his life. But I'm proud of Mike for the choices he's made in recent time and how he's really changed his life around. And he's got a wonderful wife, and he's being a very caring father, and he's taking care of his obligations and his responsibilities in every capacity. I'm very proud of Mike for that. But sitting with Cuss and talking with him, what you learned. And he'd say, this is an experience that will build your character. And he'd say, not all my fighters will become successful in the ring. Not everybody's going to be champion of the world. However, if you apply the same principles in life that you do through this type of sport, and again, as you would through any other activity that you're dedicated to, there's an incredible amount of growth that comes from that. But Cuss would go on to say, you can become successful no matter what your endeavor. And what's the key ingredients to success? Hard work, dedication, perseverance, overcoming adversity, overcoming fears and anxieties that you have and your own self-doubt. I mean, there's times I'd walk out of the boxing gym and feel like the bum of the month. Oh, I was so terrible in there. I just couldn't do anything right, and just no rhythm, and something didn't work well. Next day, no matter what, I'd be back in that gym. And we used to train 7 days a week, year-round, 7 days a week. And the next day I'd walk out of the gym and say, yes, I feel on top of the world. So there's little roller coasters and ups and downs. But you stick with it, you see it through, you make a commitment, and you use tools like creative visualization. You use tools like positive affirmation. Cuss was into hypnosis or self-hypnosis. So there's ways to take away those self-doubts that you have. Instead of saying, oh, this is real difficult, I'm just going to hope to try to be a champion one day. Instead you say, I will be great, I'm going to work hard, and I will be a champion. So you have a positive affirmation, and you may recognize your doubt, but you say, that's okay. I'm going to work hard. I'll be a champion. I'll succeed no matter what I choose to do. And all of a sudden you've got these positive affirmations that reaffirm who you are and what you're about. And these are building blocks that you take with you throughout life.
And a positive attitude to me is so important for any endeavor. I mean, nothing positive is going to happen when you have a negative attitude.
I teach my daughter, and I say it 10 times a day, and she'll say it to me. It isn't a matter of what happens, it's how we deal with it. And we want to deal with it in a positive way, because trust me, it could always be worse. We all know that.
It could always be worse.
It can always be worse. So let's deal with it, accept the responsibility, deal with it, and move on.
And to me, your comment that it could always be worse is so valid. I mean, part of what I enjoy about going out in the community and helping others is I really think it gives you a good reality check of how much we really have. And no matter what's going on in your life, you can always look at positive things. I mean, for the majority of people, there's going to be something that you're going to be thankful for or grateful, something good that's going on. And if you focus on that and your outlook is positive, you're going to achieve more.
Well, and it's very true, Julie. Hope and opportunity. Some people have lost hope. Some people, we talked about the homeless situation, and we're going to be having a big meeting on it this evening, a joint city-county. Some people have lost hope, but there's still opportunity. You can lose hope in many places, and I've traveled some of the pretty bad places in this world, and I've seen people without hope and without opportunity, and it's very disheartening to see.
Not a good combination.
You lose that spirit, you lose that, and even if they had a strong will and strong spirit, it's just the opportunity isn't there as easy as much as and as accessible as it is here. So but the strong will survive, and the strong will persevere. And so it's a test and a triumph of the human spirit to see those that pick themselves up, like this gal that graduated from law school. What a champion! I really admire and respect that person.
It's amazing. And even though, yes, there is opportunity here, like we mentioned earlier, we can still create more opportunity and give people a skill set so that they can be independent. Because it's one thing to give someone a hand out, but if we can give them a hand up, that's going to have much more benefit in the long run.
Very true. And they need to be a willing participant. I mean,
Definitely.
Sadly, and just talking about the issue of homeless people, sadly, and I talked to a lot of people that are out there engaged, from whether there be from representatives from departments or law enforcement. And some of these people just don't want to get off the streets. Some people are just, they've made up their life in their mind, and they choose drugs over family. They choose drugs over something. And obviously we care about those with mental health issues. We want services to be brought to those that are in need so we can help them stabilize and transition back to a level of normalcy, which is possible. But you have to be a willing participant. You have to engage and say, yes, I want better, and I'll do better for myself.
Yes.
And that's what we want to help these people do.
And I agree with you on that. When I go out and I feed the dogs of the homeless every week, I talk to people, and unfortunately there is a good percentage that are on drugs, but there's a lot of people who have had physical injuries and haven't received disability. There's some veterans out there that I talk to, some people who have lost family members who were providers. And unfortunately, there is probably a percentage, and hopefully it's a small percent, that no matter what opportunity you provide, they're not going to move up out of that situation. But it would be great in as many ways as possible to help as many as we can off the street. One of the things that was exciting to me, you were talking about the homeless task force, and I'm on the homeless task force and the hunger task force. And it was exciting that the Board of Supervisors recently accepted 5 of the recommendations from the Homelessness Task Force. And to see from that, then, that City Council just approved funding to help people that are homeowners that can rent out to people, and foster for them to rent out to homeless, and have a fund so that if damages happen, that they have a safety net, they have an incentive to be willing to rent to the homeless.
Correct. And take away some of those concerns that property owners have, rightfully so. I mean, you don't want to rent your property to somebody and they destroy it and then they leave and you're stuck with the bad effects.
Exactly. But it's exciting to see that, yes, we're moving in a forward momentum so that the recommendations from the task force are going to actually have a result in helping people. And that's exciting.
Action.
Action.
You got to take action. You can talk about things, but you have to actually get things done.
Yes, we have to get things done to start to make a change.
Yep. I really, one of the things I focus on is what are we doing to be proactive and preemptive. Oftentimes in politics, and you see this in our recent flood issues, you see this in different ways, but we're oftentimes very reactive, and really because government is so stressed for funding that we oftentimes allocate the funding where it's most necessary. What you'd like to be able to do, what you'd like to be able to do is, instead of being reactive, you want to be proactive.
Yes.
What do we need to do to be a step ahead of what's going on, and how can we change the curve?
Yes, we need to be preventative in as many ways as we possibly can, but unfortunately, just like you said, it comes down to finances. There's only a certain amount of money that's available, and whether we decide we're going to put it towards education or homeless or veterans, there's only the amount of money that there is.
Correct. Yep, very true.
So you mentioned that you're a single dad. Talk about how you balance your work in politics, all of the boards and volunteering that you do, and spending time with your daughter.
Well, for certain, she's a priority. And so there's some things that I just wouldn't be able to do that I might want to do. Sometimes somebody might invite me to an event, but I'll say, well, that's my daddy-daughter movie night with Presley, so I'll make that my priority. In addition, I incorporate a lot of what I do with Presley. I'll give you an example. When I was doing a fundraiser on the campaign trail, one time I was having breakfast with her, and she goes to these events with me, and she learned how to sing some songs, and she would get up there and enjoy it. And I really thought that was really wonderful for her to overcome fear and anxieties, and give her this as an opportunity for her to grow.
Socialization.
And, yeah, it is very much so. But one morning I was having breakfast with her, and I said, I have a question for you. I said, tonight I'm doing a fundraiser, and there's going to be people there. They're going to pay money for my campaign. She understands that. I said, so who do you think is the most important person in that room? And she, without really much hesitation, she says, "Well, you are, Daddy. They're all coming to see you." I said, "No." I said, "Actually, Presley, I'm the least important person in that room." I said, "Because they're coming in there, I want to make sure they've got some food. I want to make sure they've got something to drink. I want to make sure I'm listening to what their concerns are." I said, "I want to represent them." I said, "So I'm really, truly not the most important person in the room. They are." I said, "So by them showing their support means that they're trusting me, and that they believe in me, that I'm going to help fix whatever it is that they feel very passionate about." And I could just, she got it. She looked at it and she just realized that it's not about us. It's about others. And,
that's awesome.
We say our nightly prayers, and I always, we pretty much finish with we ask to receive so we can help give to others.
That's awesome.
So, so these are just, I'd use what I'm doing as a learning experience for her. And want to keep our kids grounded, of course, and keep them on the right track and doing things for their community.
Awesome. And how old is she?
She just turned 8.
All right. Exciting.
So, yeah, it's growing. It's going too fast, unfortunately, and these kids grow up way too fast.
All right. Do you have any other projects that you want to talk about?
Well, I mean, I'll tell you, it's interesting, as you get involved in your local governments and issues, and whether it be in Sacramento or your city council or board of supervisors, it's a target-rich environment. No matter what direction you turn and any rock you kick up, there are issues and there are needs. So while we stay busy managing and taking care of our responsibilities, it's also important to stay focused on things that you're very passionate about. Like, again, job training programs and working and helping the community through the things that I feel strong about. One of the things I've noticed and we're aware of, and you and I chatted about it a little bit ago, was we have farmers, in particular the asparagus crop. They're disking their crops instead of harvesting them because of the market.
Really
so
sad.
I recently went to Washington, D.C. I had a chance to go talk about flood issues, and we're championing some of the concerns that we have here and some of the needed attention that needs to be focused over on some of our issues. And when we're all done with the meetings, and I was in Dianne Feinstein's office, or I was in McNerney's office, or a Congressman Denham, and Senator Kamala Harris, every meeting I was in, I would parlay it to another issue. So everybody's kind of like done, and they're all relaxing and closing their billfolds. And I said, "Well, there's another issue I'd like you to be aware of." And they're like, "Well, what's that?" And of course, everybody's looking at me. What could it be? And I brought up to Senator Feinstein's office that we have farmers for the first time that, because of the regulations, because of some of the mandates that are imposed on them, and some of the fees and some of the restrictions.
And water concerns.
There's obviously water concerns, but there's also, it's funny. There's pesticides we're not allowed to use here in America, but they use them south of the border. But they're not allowed here. Well, why are they not allowed here? Well, because it's not healthy. So it's not healthy for the crops. Okay, not healthy for the environment. But those same pesticides are used south of the border on those same crops that are up here on our grocery store shelves.
And they're cheaper.
And they're cheaper, and much cheaper price. And we've imposed mandatory labor minimum wages, which I understand. We all want people to make good money, but we're paying somebody, what's soon going to be $15 an hour. There's workers down in Mexico that don't make that in a day. So we're paying exorbitant labor rates compared to the other markets that we're competing with, yet they're able to bring their product up here without any tariff and put them on our grocery shelves and put our own farmers out of work. So Senator Feinstein's office was very attentive to what I had to say, and they were equally concerned. So you try to be a squeaky wheel, you try to make noise and bring an issue up. And if I plant the seed and then somebody else follows up, and you come at it from different angles, then you start to maybe move the bar of what's going to be done and how it could be done different.
Well, and asparagus has been such an important crop in our community. We've had the Asparagus Festival, and the day that the article was on the front page of the Record about the decline in asparagus farmers, on the overfold there was a supermarket ad for asparagus showing how cheap it was, and it was asparagus coming from another country.
Yeah. It's true, and that's it's unfortunate. But I think at one point, I'm certain my numbers might be off, but it was something like at one point we used to have 40,000 acres of asparagus. Now we have 4,000 acres of asparagus. So the farmers get away from a product that they can no longer make profit at. It's funny. I go to the Farm Bureau meetings, and as often as I can, I'm a member of the Farm Bureau for many years. And what's amazing to me is that report after report after report, and they've got a room. It's an active board meeting when they hold it once a month, and they are getting reports from a multitude of committees inside of that agency, and you cannot believe the threats that they report. And it's almost like you if you get one step forward, you are 2 steps back just right around the corner.
Wow.
And so the farmers are constantly faced with a threat and just new regulations, new restrictions, new fees, new mandates, new something, and it's we're gonna price them out of business. They are going to go out of business, and we need to put attention on that. So while we also, of course, want to be good stewards to our land and be mindful of our environment, there are some things that are done that are imposed that are just not sustainable, and it's not reasonable. It's not fair.
Well, and California has always been such a huge hub for agriculture, going not only within our state but to other states and other countries, and we don't want to do away with that. I mean, that's the livelihood of a huge percentage of our population. Not
only the livelihood, but it's also where our food and fruits and vegetables comes from. We feed America. And so this is, of all regions in the world, we are the most bountiful region, period. Nobody else competes with us. Nobody produces as much agriculture product than San Joaquin County. And that's factual. You can Google it, look it up. It's an absolute fact. Have you ever heard of a vernal pool?
Yes, I have.
You have. So you may or may not be aware of it, but there are, and for your listeners that may not know, I didn't know anything about a vernal pool, but apparently if there's, after a rainstorm, if there's a little gathering of water on your land, that is now considered a vernal pool. You're no longer allowed to plow that field. You're no longer allowed to bulldoze it. You're no longer allowed to use your land as you see fit. The Army Corps of Engineers, EPA, all of these agencies are going to come down on you and impose restrictions and fines so that you are now prohibited from using your own land. That's ludicrous. It is completely, that is absurd. And that is extremism brought well beyond the levels of normalcy, decency, or consideration, or even common sense.
Well, and even it goes back to the pesticide thing, because those things parallel. Because if you're having regulations where farmers can't use pesticides, but you're bringing in food and other products that have had those same pesticides, what difference is it making, and why are you hurting the people from your own community?
Correct. So you want a level, fair playing field, and you want common sense. You shouldn't be dealing with people that have ulterior motives and objectives that are counter to. Listen, there are some people that believe nature's good, people are bad, protect nature from people because people are bad. And there's too many people, so we need to retard the opportunities for population to grow. I had one farmer tell me that he had a meeting back in it was like 76 or 7, and John Couts, one of our big wine growers and farmer, and he had a meeting with a gal that was from the Sierra Club, and she goes, Mr. Couts, mark my words, there will not be one new water program, one new water storage development in the state of California. And he says, why would you think that? She goes, because that's how we're going to control population growth. And he goes, I laughed.
That's insane.
He goes, I laughed when she said that. He goes, but you know what, Tom? True to her word, there's not been one new water program or a water reservoir built in the state of California. He goes, you laugh at it. And he goes, you think like, oh yeah, that's impossible. She goes, they won. They're right. That's what they did. Their ulterior motive, she said, we want to help stop the growth of human beings.
Well, and there was plans for another reservoir, and part of why they feel that the Oroville Dam has the issues that it has is that we didn't build that other reservoir.
Correct. We should be utilizing, we capture 20% of our stormwater. And listen,
That's a small amount.
We're all recycling water. We're drinking the same water that Cleopatra drank thousands of years ago. I mean, it is the same
Maybe
water.
not quite that extreme, but
it is. It's the same water. Goes in the ocean, it evaporates, goes in the clouds, it rains on the land, and you utilize it. So we capture roughly 20% of our water. It all goes back out to the ocean. So we should be utilizing. Yeah, and really, truly, what you need when it comes to water is a multi-pronged approach.
Yes.
One thing doesn't fit for all.
Yes.
And the day I got sworn in, I said this to my fellow board members and to the public. It's in San Joaquin County, it's really interesting. But when you think about it, most of California's water comes through San Joaquin with our delta, the waterways we have here. And most everybody in California wants it from San Joaquin. Even our own water districts within San Joaquin County are bickering and fighting and oftentimes at odds with each other. Well, that's starting to change. We've got a couple of board members from the supervisors that are working with the multiple water boards and also working with adjoining counties. And what they've come up with and what I talked about is, instead of always saying no, what we're against twin tunnels, we're against this, we're against that. What are we in favor of? What are we promoting? Well, let's put together a water plan that works for all of California, utilizing technology, water recycling, stormwater capturing and cleaning. I used to live in Los Angeles. Typhoon rains would come through there. Literally, I remember seeing videos of people's Mercedes-Benz and Rolls Royces floating in the underground parking lots, structures. And there's so much rain, and it all just goes out to the ocean. Well, you can recapture that. Capture that water. It's an investment in your infrastructure. So the answer is not just keep taking from somebody else, but utilize yours. It's a desert basin. Nobody told you to move there, but utilize what you've got if it's available for you.
And what about desalinization? All I hear is that that's so expensive, but I'm sorry, we can use solar power. We can use the minds from the people that are going through universities. Let's come up with a way that we can at least have that be part of the equation. Maybe it's not going to be 100%.
Remember the ulterior motive. If you prevent new water, you're retarding population growth. So that's their ideology. So they're against it. So it took 20 years to put a desal plant down in Carlsbad, and 20 years later, it's opened up and it's operational. It's bringing water to 500,000 people a day. And that's wonderful. But actually, there's new technologies out now that's making it even more affordable. Of course, we don't want too much salt going in the ocean and having adverse effect in the ecosystem around in the reefs. And I'm a scuba diver. I am an environmentalist. I go out. I enjoy the outdoors. I've been a hunter. I've fished. I've scuba dived. I do multitudes of things. I spearfish. I do lots of things to live off the land and take care of it. And I always leave a place better than how I found it. And it's a good stewardship. I'm a conservationist, but I'm also pragmatic, and I'm a realist, and I've got common sense about what I'm doing. So that's what we need. We don't want to sacrifice anything to the benefit of, but it is doable. You can utilize it. There is technology out where takes less energy. There is technology out that you can recycle some of the salt, and it's not as damaging going back in. Do you know the 6th largest freshwater river west of the Mississippi is the Los Angeles sewer discharge? It's clean, filtered water, and it goes right out to the ocean.
Wow. No, I didn't know
It's the 6th largest freshwater river west of the Mississippi.
Wow.
So here you've got this stream of fresh water. The technology is there. Remember, that's the same water that Cleopatra was drinking. So how about, let's get crazy. Let's mix 10% of salt water with this discharge water so that people feel good about it again. And you've got the ability, so you're not doing 100% desalination, but utilize this fresh water going to the ocean and capture 10% of salt water, and now you've got clean, very potable water that could be utilized for the population that they utilize daily as is.
And that sounds really doable.
Yeah, the technology is there. We just have to have a commitment. When I was a candidate, I drove down to Los Angeles. I went to the Board of Supervisors there, and I called them to task about it. So what have you done over the course of time to be self-sufficient, to be self-sustaining? Why do you think that it's to the benefit of Los Angeles to sacrifice other regions so that you can get your water supply? This is a call to action. I said, you're a very powerful board. You're very influential throughout the state. This is a call to action. Diversify your approach and use look at a multi-pronged approach for water resources.
It's not fair to say that their community is a priority over other communities.
Correct. And it's funny because when I lived back in the 90s, I remember we had a massive drought. I guess 97 or so. We had a massive drought in the state of California. And I remember a local politician, I don't remember his name, but I remember him getting on TV and saying, well, Northern California has to understand that we need that water. And I understand that. Yes, it's parched and they need water down there, but what else are they doing? Santa Barbara at that time put in a desalination plant. They said, what can we do? They put together a plan of action and they put in a desalination plant.
It has to be a partnership.
Yeah. What did Los Angeles do? Think nothing other than importing more water. And it's just at some point it's not sustainable with the water supply we have, and until we create a greater water infrastructure, and we should have honestly a federal water infrastructure. When you see floods happening in Texas and Mississippi and down in the southern parts of America, well, let's capture that water. Let's pipe it into the Colorado River where you've got a strain on that water supply. So let's pipe in water and help nourish the western regions that are far more
that's
parched.
Logical. That also goes into the preventative approach that you were talking about
one step
earlier.
ahead, yeah.
And that would be a win-win for both areas.
Correct.
So since we're talking about water, do you want to comment briefly on the canals?
The twin tunnels? Oh, well, we have to stand firmly against it. That's the problem with the twin tunnels is it does not create a new water supply. What the twin tunnels is all about is taking water, clean water. See, the secret about the Twin Tunnel Project is it's not about getting more water, it's about getting cleaner water. However, I'm more suspect, so that while that's the ulterior goal is getting the objective at this point is getting cleaner water. But when you're building two 40-foot tunnels, at some point that's about getting more water. It's not creating any water, it's just taking more water from here. And where it's looking to be allocated, that water will never make it down to Southern California. That water is going to be distributed to regions down in Southern California or down by Bakersfield that I don't even think that water will ever make it over the grapevine.
Well, and even I was told that at a meeting that it's also going to go to farmers as well, and I agree.
Correct.
Not make it down further. It's going to go to people farming almonds and other products.
Correct. They have the soil down there is very sandy, and the water supply they have regionally is not adequate for the crops that they're growing, and they've expanded the orchards down there, not decreased them in any capacity. So there's a lot of money that rides on this, and there's been a lot of contributions and a lot of lobbying on behalf of these interests, but it doesn't serve our region in any capacity. So we need to stand firm and strong against them. And we at the supervisors throughout the county and other counties join us in that fight.
Well, and there has been a huge increase in orchards as opposed to crops that rotate, where the orchards need year-round watering. The ground doesn't necessarily need to be watered all year long. The orchards do.
Yeah, you want to be good stewards and allocate the water as is. One thing, there's a misnomer about the water, and they talk about it, that we're exporting our water through almonds overseas and such. About 85% of water that goes to the orchards goes back in the ground. So what you're really essentially doing is recharging your water table by having that water available to the trees to feed them as they do. 85% goes into the ground. So the whole idea that this almond product is exporting our water, that's consuming more water, it's a utilized commodity. It's market driven. I mean, people are wanting it, and so the farmers are growing it.
But it's not gone.
But the water's not gone. Yeah.
Okay, that's a good perspective. I'm glad that you shared that. Did you want to comment on a potential new university coming to Stockton and the need for that and why it's important?
I started a petition about 3 years ago, and it was separate from my running for office because you just, again, look to be proactive and to be involved. But I feel very firm. I know our Assemblywoman, Susan Eggman, has been a strong champion to this effect. And I applaud that and stand beside her and cheer her 100%. Because we do need that. We are, as the arguments would go, we're the largest city in the state of California without a CSU. How Merced got a UC over San Joaquin County is beyond me. I mean,
make sense.
You got Stanislaus CSU down there. You've got just south of us a bit, but it's happened. We've been overlooked in some way, shape, or form. We weren't loud at the time to maybe get it and bring it over here. Maybe at the time felt there was competition and UOP didn't want it or Delta College didn't want it. But the reality is our community needs it. Now, my personal take on it is that I personally would say we need to center it in downtown Stockton. Everybody wants smart growth. I applaud that. Everybody wants infill. Sure, fantastic. I wouldn't sacrifice the rest of our community's growth and development just for the idea of infill, because I can tell you right now, in these areas that you want infill, in these old areas where there's a high crime rate, nobody is taking down old properties and building up more properties and making it a place where people want to move their families to. It's not going to happen.
We need property. We're housing
We
short.
need it. We need the funding. Listen, an acre of land at the farming level is about a $10,000 tax annually, right? An acre of land developed is got a $2 million value. So a $10,000 value versus a $2 million value, you get a much higher tax base off the $2 million. So
which is only going to give more money to
we
our
need money
community,
for our
for
sources,
services.
for all the services. Our population is growing. We need services for the homeless. We need services for youth. We need services for the children. We need services in every capacity. So you want healthy growth. However, back to the CSU. Having lived in New York City as I did, and the commonality, everybody says, oh, well, CSU, you need 100 acres with a potential of 200 acres for expansion. I lived in New York City where Fordham, you had Columbia, and you had NYU. NYU has 55,000 students alone. Guess what they do? They build up. Hello, downtown Stockton, build up. You can, then comes your housing, then comes your restaurants, then becomes your cool, fun, trendy place to be because it's got energy. You walk to your school, you walk to where you work, you walk to, this community. It becomes a little Westwood, right, in downtown Stockton.
And you have music, it becomes lively.
Absolutely. And that to me, and until you bring an anchor like that, that's the game changer for downtown Stockton. And we are the center of San Joaquin County. And we are that 800-pound gorilla in the room. So while there's growth in Manteca and there's growth in Tracy and there's a lot of things going on, we are still the epicenter of San Joaquin County. And if Stockton fails, so does the rest of San Joaquin County. So we need to do things that rejuvenate our core. And a CSU anchored in downtown Stockton, I believe, would be transformational for the city and for the region.
It would be planting a tree, and the seeds are
it would be
come
magnificent.
very quickly.
It would have a magnificent and profound impact. So that's my 2 cents worth. There's other people have other interpretations of what to do, and the region needs it itself. But I'm studying it, looking at it. There's no greater impact to downtown Stockton than bringing in a CSU.
All right. And any final comments on anything?
Oh gosh, you pick a subject, we can keep talking. So it's
we could talk for hours.
Yes, it's fun, and I always appreciate you're very intelligent, you're very interested and passionate about our community, and I really appreciate and respect that. And I value our friendship as I've gotten to know you over the last couple of years.
Thank you. I feel the same.
Yeah, so you're one of our blessings in this community. But you're really, more than anything, I would encourage our listeners, I would encourage our residents to get involved, to engage in the community and do more. What was really interesting is when you walk through as a candidate and you're knocking on doors and meeting people and asking them to vote, of course, and engaging in conversation. What was really interesting is if you went to a neighborhood of 80 homes, let's say, you only knocked on about 15 doors, maybe 20 doors. The rest of the people don't vote. And that was really interesting. That was to me, and you see people I might know. In my own neighbors, I'd knock on the door and say, hey, listen, I don't know if you know I'm running for office. Like, we we'll put a lawn sign up for you. I'm like, wait. You never vote? You've got kids, you're growing up in this, you're raising them up in this neighborhood, and you don't vote? It's just out of my wheelhouse of understanding.
Yeah, something that people in other countries are fighting and dying for the ability to do.
Very true. Very true. So I'm just encouraging many people to, as many people as possible, get involved. Attend your committee meetings. Attend your school board meetings. While we all pay attention to, and we all listen to what's happening in Washington and what our new president Trump did or didn't, or Obama did or didn't do, and then you have all these emotions at our top level. Truly nothing has a greater impact than who's on your school
Local
board,
level.
who's on that chamber of commerce, who's involved, your city council, your board of supervisors, all these people. That's what's going to have an influence. So get involved in your chambers, get involved in your community, and participate with making our community that much better.
And if you can't attend the meetings, the city council meetings and county board of supervisors are videotaped. I don't know about the other committee meetings, but if you can't be there, you can watch it. You can look at notes from the meetings. That's all available online.
Well, and lastly, I would say one of the greater things you could do is by getting involved, again, being on the committees or getting, there's the county is looking for volunteers to be on multitudes of committees. But what's going on at the Child Abuse Prevention Council? What's going on at CASA? They need mentors. They need people that would just once a week meet with a child that doesn't have that mentor, that doesn't have anybody that says, you matter to me.
Can change someone's life.
And change their life. And it does change their life. You look at these foster kids. You look at kids that are by no choice of their own. They're struggling, and they need mentors. They need engagement. We have so many people in this community that are retired or disappointed the way things are going. Well, get involved. Make a difference.
And as we're closing this episode, I just wanted to give a shout out to All Creatures Emergency Clinic, and also to remind everyone we are still fundraising for our tower. There will be a Tower Up event this Thursday night at the Ave on the Miracle Mile at 8 p.m. And I just really wanted to thank Tom Patti for being here today. What a great inspirational discussion on things going on in our community and beyond.
This has been my pleasure. Thank you so much for having me.
KXVS on 92.1. Coming soon.